Uh, Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us, spending an hour with us. The purpose of tonight is it's been a long time since we were in person. I think the last time we were in person, Maimonides was still writing Torah commentary. At least it seems like that long. And there's this is a time of transition. We're transitioning still away from the founders. We're transitioning to, away from COVID, we certainly hope. And there's been a lot of changes since the last time we were all together. Some of them have been painful. And the idea is for Bet Teshuvah, we want to lay out plans to how we can be true to the original mission, which was started so long ago by Rabbi Mark and Harriet. But as we move into a new era where there are more regulations and we have more, a more complex world, but we don't want to lose the mission. And so we want to spend a lot of time tonight on kind of what the plans are for going forward. So as people start to come back, you'll come back with some sense of what you're coming back to. Now, we've asked you to, some people have posted questions in the chat. We invite you to continue to do so. Let me see. Well, it looks like there's one here. Paul, you are so debonair and thoughtful. How did you come to be that way? This really isn't about me. It's about Bet Teshuvah. So that's not an appropriate question. But since you asked, well, let's move on from that. A couple things. Most of tonight will be shared by Sergio and Adam and Rabbi Joseph. Just a couple preliminary things. One, a reminder of the gala. That's certainly our biggest fundraiser. And that's going to be May 15th. So please try to attend. We're planning on it being in person. I also wanted to mention something that I don't know how many of you are aware of, but a few of us at Bet Teshuvah, primarily Adam and Janice, and I was involved a little bit, Michael Soder, put together a program called MCLE, Continuing Legal Education for Lawyers. And we put this on as for free. We don't charge. We put it on for law firms, and the lawyers need to get an hour of what they call competency credit. So if any of you have connections to any law firms, we're interested in doing additional MCLE presentations. If you make the connection, we'll follow up. So far, Adam and Janice have done almost all of them. I've done a couple of them, and the feedback has been really great. So it's a good way to get BTS out into the community and to do a good service at the same time. Okay, so as we let's move on, and I think those were just a couple of preliminary things I wanted to say. So who are we going to go to next? Sergio, is it you?
I think so, yeah. All right, just a reminder to our audience, if you'd like to submit questions during the check-in, you can do so directly to Nicole Goodman. She's just posted something in the chat. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be in the space with you tonight and to have the opportunity to share with you openly where we are and where we're going. And it seems most appropriate that I begin by addressing COVID and Beit Teshuvah, as the pandemic has been at the forefront of our collective and individual experiences over the course of the last 2 years. And during that time, our primary focus really has been to keep Beit Teshuvah safe while continuing to provide addiction treatment. Candidly, the challenges of operating a congregate living facility during a global pandemic have been, to say the least, quite daunting, but I'm pleased to share with you that we are emerging victoriously. Early on in the pandemic, I formed a COVID task force, which along with our medical director, Dr. John Watson, instituted a number of proactive policies that kept Beit Shuvah safe and without one positive case for the first 9 months of the pandemic. And that was a tremendous feat and reflective of the deep commitment that our staff have towards the continuity of our program during the most challenging and unprecedented of circumstances. The decisions we made in response to the pandemic were difficult ones and often incongruent with our treatment model. We know that community and connection are the pulse of long-term lasting recovery. And yet during the pandemic, connection became the threat, not the healing agent. This was difficult for all of us. It was difficult for all of you. It was difficult for me, for our staff and our residents, but we understood and personally experienced the longing and the desire to return to the pre-pandemic Beit Shuvah way of life. But our focus needed to be the safety of our residents and our physical space. Because of the measures we took, we experienced only a handful of outbreaks after the first 9 months, and none of them resulted in any serious medical complications. I cannot express enough gratitude for our frontline clinical and support staff who continued to show up during the darkest and hardest days of the pandemic, long before there was a vaccine, nor will I ever be able to communicate or fully explain to all of you their earnest and committed efforts in keeping Beit Shuvah and our residents safe. They are without doubt true heroes. Last December, we experienced our largest outbreak to date due to the Omicron variant, which affected 2/3 of our staff or 1/3 of our staff and 2/3 of our residents, including myself. We were placed on an outbreak status by the Department of Public Health and consequently suspended admissions and once again sent all of our non-essential staff home. We underwent 2 site visits by the Department of Public Health, one in person and one virtually, and they were deeply impressed with our efforts and strategies, once again reconfirming that Beit Shuvah has not missed a beat in ensuring the safety of its facilities, staff, and residents. Aside from our frontline staff, a huge debt of gratitude is owed to our operations director, Russell Harrison, and Chaplain Adam Siegel for monitoring public health guidelines and their diligent efforts with policy implementation. So tonight, I am happy to report to you that we are in our 4th week of no new positive cases following the December outbreak. The outbreak status has been lifted by the Department of Public Health. And we are now in the process of the most advanced reopening in 2 years. What does that look like? Our admissions department is open with a steady flow of residents coming in each week. Clinical services are now happening in person and not by Zoom. Residents are going out on passes. Community members are returning on site. Freedom Song, which is our musical performed by staff and residents and alumni, will be going on tour at the end of the month in Maryland and New Jersey. Last Thursday, we had our first in-person special event in over 2 years, the Circle of Majesty. And of course, as Paul mentioned, on May 15th, we are honoring Janice Kaminer-Resnick, Ben Resnick, and Charlotte Kaminer at our annual gala at the Beverly Hilton. And of course, we invite all of you to attend. This Friday, we're having our first in-person Shabbat, bringing back the community. And while there continues to be restrictions in terms of access to our buildings, we are well on our way to returning to a version of our pre-pandemic operating style. So I've had the honor now for about 2.5 years and the challenge of undertaking the leadership of Beit Shuvah during a pivotal moment in its history. And not just because of COVID, but because we are in the process of moving from over 30 years of founder-based leadership to a new generation in our organizational life cycle. As some of you know, I came to Beit Shuvah after leading a 2-year program evaluation while working for UCLA. I was deeply moved during my time as a researcher by Beit Shuvah's creative and robust treatment program, its inspiring mission of saving lives regardless of one's ability to pay, and by its message that each of us matters, that we are dimensional beings, worth more than our worst mistakes, and of the transformative power of tshuva. While I am not an addict, Harriet's message that you don't need to be an addict in recovery resonated profoundly with me. I recognize my own broken and incongruent parts and found Beit Shuva's message and lessons applicable to my own personal journey. As the executive director, I report directly to the board chair, Paul Bergman, and the board of directors. And in this capacity, I am responsible for overseeing every aspect of Beit Shuva's operations. But this is not a solo effort. The job is too big, and frankly, the work is too important to undertake alone. I receive tremendous guidance and support on all major decisions from our board, and work closely with the executive management team that I assembled early on in my administration. Because of timing, I'm not going to go into details of who those people are. They're terrific people, and you can go on our website and see who's on the team. And their faces will be recognizable to many of you because they have long histories with Beit Shuva, and they are deeply committed to our long-term success. COVID safety aside, the last 2.5 years have included other key agenda items, including guiding Beit Shuva into its next stage by professionalizing many of its systems and practices, including within the clinical department, compliance, and human resources. For many years, we naturally operated as a mom and pop shop. I'm not saying this flippantly, it was natural and understandable. Harriet recently taught me that creative energy is different than sustainable energy. The founders created. My job, our job, is now to sustain. Our task is to delicately balance who we are, our values, and our principles with the natural evolution that all organizations must undergo in order to survive. We cannot look back to who we were. Instead, we must remember who we are, our values, and look forward courageously to imagine who we can become. Another focus over the last couple of years has been to diversify our revenue stream. A few years ago, I, along with Chaplain Adam Siegel, were instrumental in securing a drug Medi-Cal contract with LA County Substance Abuse Prevention and Control. This has diversified our revenue portfolio and ultimately has helped us in continuing to subsidize our treatment beds so that residents can receive excellent care while in generous scholarships. Yes, admittedly, drug Medi-Cal has brought about substantial changes with policies and practices, but as we say here, it is a both and. While we've had to deal with red tape and bureaucracy, we've also had the privilege of becoming partners with other providers, gained recognition and visibility as part of the LA County Public Health System, and again, we have relied on these funds to support our treatment program that save lives every day. Most importantly, the foundation of Beit Shuva remains. We are still a therapeutic community. Jewish spirituality and tradition are the bedrock of our treatment program. Residents begin their day each day with Torah study, and the breadth and depth of our services have not changed. I know that there have been questions recently about personnel decisions and turnover. Unfortunately, there will always be more questions than answers in this area, as we are beholden to labor law and other agreements that make it inappropriate and even illegal for us to provide specific personnel details on current or former employees. When possible, we do communicate as much information as we can. For example, last November, Paul Bergman and I sent a community-wide email announcing that Rabbi Mark and Harriet had officially resigned from Beit Shuva as employees and are now graciously volunteering their time. I fully recognize that our community forms deep attachments with our staff, and questions and disruption are natural when there's turnover and change. My pledge is that we will do our best to communicate about personnel challenges to the extent that we can under the law. We have done this as much as possible since I've been executive director, and we will continue to do so. But I also ask for your understanding that privacy and labor law often restricts the amount of information that can be disclosed. I want to end by sharing some exciting news on two fronts. The first is with regard to the thrift store. In 2019, the Beit Shuva Board of Directors voted to sell our original thrift store building on Washington. With the guidance from the Board Real Estate Committee, our agreement allowed us to continue to operate at the Washington location through July 2020. Since then, we have signed a lease for a new location at Pico and La Cienega. And over the last few months, Andy Trackman, who serves on our board, has masterfully led the build out and ensured that the new location has the proper permits to operate. Of course, much gratitude is also due to Brad Wiseman and his late father, Hal Wiseman, for the vision of the store in the first place. I'm excited to report that yesterday was the first day that the store is operating at its new location. It was a soft opening. The store was hustling and bustling, and I encourage everyone to pay a visit. And we're planning to do a grand opening in early April, and stay tuned for more details on that front. The second piece of exciting news that I want to share is that Beit Shuvah is also in the process of opening a medical detox. This has been something that we've talked about for many years, and we own a property about a mile away, which has 4 houses. It's a compound, and previously was used as employee sober housing. And we have renovated one of the houses to become a detox. 2 weeks ago, the Department of Healthcare Services conducted its pre-licensed site visit, which went extremely well, with the analyst remarking that it was clearly evident that Beit Shuvah prioritizes client care and its treatment program over profit. And this was really encouraging to hear, especially from someone who travels the entire state up and down, conducting visits and inspections of different residential and outpatient facilities. So we anticipate opening at some point in the summer. We are very excited, and it's an enormous step forward for us as an organization as we expand our continuum of care and become a full-service treatment center from detox through aftercare, and really the only Jewish nonprofit addiction treatment center in the United States that offers these services. So my priority has been and will continue to be to make decisions that are first and foremost in the interest of Beit Shuvah and in Beit Shuvah's long-term sustainability and success. That's my commitment. That's why I took this job. It's what I intend to see through as long as I am privileged to serve as the executive director. And now I have the privilege to pass it on to our interim community rabbi, Rabbi Joseph Shamash.
Thank you, Sergio. I just first, before I say anything, I just want to say a debt of gratitude to you and your leadership. Your steady voice and confidence and faith always inspires me and calms me when I'm unsettled. And your humor is really, it's so great to have you, your presence and you steering the ship. So I'm very grateful for you and all that you've done for Beit Shuvah in your time.
Thank you, Rabbi.
I wanted to start with just a story. I guess, Rambam, I guess, was writing Tshuvot when by the last time we met, right, Paul? So I thought maybe I'd start with a little Torah. And it's a story that I heard from Michael Kaminer. And he told me there was a man who was walking along the road, and all of a sudden he comes across a river. And as he approaches the river, he sees that, oh no, there's someone drowning in the river. And so he rushes into the river and begins to pull this other person out of the water and brings them to safety. And just as he brings them out of the water, he notices, oh wait, that there are hundreds of others just like him drowning in the water. And the man rushes in trying to grab as many people, and more people come to the river to try to pull and save as many people out of the water from drowning as possible. And as each person is being pulled out, other people keep coming, and one has the foresight to look up ahead, look upstream and see what's the cause, what's the root issue. And this person notices that, oh wait, there's a hole in the bridge, and people are just falling into the bridge, falling down into the water and drowning. And that story resonates so much with me because of what we're doing at Beit Shuvah, right? We're pulling people out of the water who are drowning from addiction, who are drowning from a spiritual malady, right? Who are losing connection and trying to make sense of life. But what is also so great about Beit Shuvah is that we also have the foresight that we're looking upstream too at society's larger problems. This is the only treatment facility that I know that has a congregation, that has a learning institute of the Elaine Breslow Institute that teaches rabbis, Jewish educators, medical professionals about addiction and how to heal addiction. We have a prevention program that goes all across the country. As Sergio mentioned, our Freedom Song Tour is going to be going on in beginning March 27th. Right? We are equipped to deal with not only those people who are drowning in the water, and we do a really good job of saving them, but also spreading the message out, right? Bringing about a spiritual awakening, prevention, and really getting people out of criminal justice reform too. So the work is incredibly inspiring, and never did I think that I was going to be a rabbi in the first place. But second of all, to be a rabbi at a place where Judaism is the core of the healing modality, right? We talk about connection, but the Jewish spirituality, the way the program is catered, is fashioned, Jewish wisdom is at its core. And it's really exciting. And of course we've missed everybody being on site. And I know when you haven't seen it happening for 2 years, it can be a challenge to see that the miracles that are happening daily at Beit Tshuva, which is why I'm very, very excited that as of coming Friday, 2 days from now, we're going to be back on site for the first time in 2 years for a Shabbat service. We're opening Fridays for now. We're asking everybody who is fully vaccinated and to continue to wear masks for now. But we're going to have Shabbat services where that connection piece that has been missing from the residents and for the community can also help to revitalize the energy at Beit Tshuva, and to help people out of that water a lot faster, and also address the longer term issues. So that's what I'm really excited about. I'm really excited to be part of this incredible team. Being a congregational rabbi is growth for me. And one of the things that I'm really lucky that Beit Tshuva has is an incredible music department. Cantor Nate, Laura Bagish, Thea Goldstein, the incredible musicians that are a part of making Shabbat happen. And from the tech department, from Max behind the scenes and Jesse Solomon with the film department, we are incredibly poised to create a very unique experience, both for our residents and our community. And it's going to take time to rebuild too. I think a lot of us have gotten used to be living on Zoom. Do I really want to make that schlep across the city to come to services when I can just be there online and Zoom, and I can be in the comfort of my own home and stay in my PJs? And the hope is, and the ask is, the invitation is to partner with us, to be a part of creating Beit Tshuva 2.0, right? As Sergio was saying, to move beyond the founder-led to a global enterprise that Beit Tshuva already is, right? How do we sustain that global enterprise? And my hope is that everybody here on Zoom is going to be a major part of that, is going to play a role in creating that. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity. I'm really grateful for the team. I think I was also supposed to say, we have a couple of, also Purim is coming up on March 17th. We're going to have Passover Seder on site, God willing, on April 15th. It's a Friday night as well. So there are going to be many opportunities to come back on site and be a part of. And that's what I'm really looking forward to. And now I'm going to introduce Adam Nimoy, our Sanctuary Committee Chair.
Unmute myself. Okay, hi, everybody. Adam Nimoy here. Can you guys hear me? Oh, nodding heads. I love that. I want to thank you all for the opportunity to meet with you directly in Zoom land, as it were. I think it's a great opportunity to find out where we're going, what our mission is, where we've been. I just want to express my gratitude to the board of directors, of which I'm a member, under the deft leadership of the debonair Paul Bergman. Thank you, Paul. The board of directors is a deep group of very talented people, a lot of professionals, a lot of people who care about the organization. There are a lot of people who who donate their expertise, legal, financial expertise, to keeping us going. And I'm really been impressed. I've been on the board for about 5 years and really impressed with the unity of vision and the cooperation that we experience when we have these board meetings. I'm also really grateful to Rabbi and the clergy. We still have a strong clergy at Beit Yeshiva. It's a big cornerstone of what we do. We are faith-based. Spirituality is a big part of our program. It's a major cornerstone of why we're so successful in our program. As a person in recovery myself, I have 18 years of sobriety. I know, having gone to meetings for so many years, that many people have trouble with the spiritual aspect of 12-step recovery. There is a spiritual element, and there is a program of action that we have to take, but a lot of people have trouble with the God problem. There is a whole chapter in the big book dedicated to we agnostics, about people who either don't know or simply do not believe in a higher power and have trouble finding one for themselves, which is a cornerstone of recovery. Beit Yeshuva, that is a big part of what recovery is all about. So people are immersed in that in terms of Torah study and Shabbat services. So I think that is a large reason why we're so successful, in addition to the fact that we have a very strong, tight-knit community. The opposite of addiction is connection. It's not just sobriety, and that's why I think we're on the forefront and we're so unique. I also want to express my gratitude to the staff that we have at Beit Yeshiva. It's very dedicated, under the leadership of Sergio. Not what he signed up for, not an easy job, a lot of challenges, a lot of moving parts, a lot of things going on. COVID threw us a real curveball. We've had a lot of issues about finances, funding, the thrift store that we've had to relocate, the detox center that we're trying to open, a lot of staff changes, a lot going on, a lot of moving parts. Sergio, thank you for keeping a hand on it and not freaking out and melting down and leaving us. Thank you. I also want to thank the music department, and I'm really grateful to you guys for keeping it going. You guys suit up and show up every Friday. I know some of you are here online with us tonight. I'm so grateful to you guys. I mean, you're there without fail. And that is a large part of what recovery is all about, is just showing up and doing the work, even when sometimes you don't feel like it. And you guys do it. You are a model of recovery. You're a big part of my recovery. I'm so grateful to everybody in the music department who just knocks it out of the park every week. Okay, so a little bit more about me. I said I'm a board of director. I'm on the board of directors. I am the chairman of the Sanctuary Committee, which is a committee that deals with issues relating to the congregation, which I'll get into more detail about. I am also oversee, to some extent, the film department, which basically means that I'm just around to irritate Jesse Solomon as much as I possibly can. Jesse and I put the film department together prior to the pandemic. And I think there's a lot going on in that department. I'm trying to get back in to work with the residents to help them work on film, tell their stories on film. That was the whole objective of that department. What else? I sponsor some of the residents now at Beit Yeshuva. And I still, that's a part of my recovery. And also as a part of my recovery, I still study Torah with Rabbi Mark on Fridays. We've been doing this for about 8 or 9 years now. And we're almost through the 5 books of Moses. It only took us 8 years to do it. But I'm really grateful for that because I'm very dedicated to Rabbi Mark and Harriet and their original vision. We are not the same as when they started out. We have gone through a lot of growing pains, a lot of transition, but we are trying to hold true to the original mission that their dream that they had engendered for this organization. And there are a lot of us who are devoted to that mission and keeping it alive. As Paul pointed out, I'm also involved with the minimum continuing legal education program. I myself am a recovering attorney, I would say. I practiced law for 7 years and then decided it was not my life's calling. But what we do is, and I'm mostly with Paul and with Janice Resnick, is we go out to law firms to talk to them about addiction and alcoholism in the legal profession, which is really rampant. I mean, practicing law is extremely stressful and extremely difficult. And for a number of reasons, there is a disproportionate amount of people who suffer from alcoholism and drug addiction, including myself for a while there in that profession. And as a part of continuing legal education, attorneys are required to take this course. And I think we're doing a good job at educating people about what's going on in the legal profession in terms of alcoholism addiction, as well as spreading the word about Beit Teshuva. Janice and I do talk about the various forms of treatment that are very out there and available and why we are unique and different. I think it's also, some of you may know, I'm also somehow got lassoed into participating with the music department in terms of some of the theme Shabbats we have. We've had Rolling Stones Shabbat, we've had Beatles Shabbat, and yes, somehow, for some reason, some people have clamored for Grateful Dead Shabbat. It's beyond my comprehension who those people are out there. Grateful Dead simply do not have many hits on top 40 radio, yet we are still putting together a program, date to be announced, hopefully somewhere in the distant future, as we need a lot of work, but it's a very exciting, it's an exciting program for me to be participating myself with the music department. And again, part of my recovery, part of being connected to the community. I want to talk a little bit about the congregation, who we are, what we do as a committee, and where we're going with the congregation. So we're a small committee. It's myself, Paul and Andrea Bergman, Bill Cohen, Bob Bedninson, Kathy Galper, Dana Gash. And then we're joined with and we have Sarah Jacobson as our congregation coordinator. Thank goodness we have her working with us and helping us. And we meet about once a month, sometimes once or twice a month, depending on what's going on. And we are joined by Rabbi Joseph helps lead us as well in terms of what our agenda is. And Cantor Nate is there also to supply input and feedback as to what we should be thinking about. What is our mission? Who are we as a congregation? What purpose we serve? What function do we serve? And one of the things I wanted to mention to you is that overall, and this is something we've wrestled with, I've been on this committee for over 2 years, and I've been kind of chairing the committee for about the last year and a half or so. One of the things that we have struggled with is, who are we as a congregation? Because the fact of the matter is, I have belonged to a half dozen congregations in this town for various reasons. I went to Hebrew school at Mogen David. I was bar mitzvahed at Adat Shalom. My kids were in preschool at Temple Isaiah. They were bar and bat mitzvahed at Wilshire Boulevard Temple. I've had relatives who are Stephen S. wives. I've been up there plenty of times. We do not look like any other traditional congregation. We are simply not like any other congregation in this town, which makes us unique and special and attractive to some people. But also, I think we have to be cognizant of the fact that we really are in existence, first and foremost, as created by Rabbi and Harriet, to service the residential community at Beit Teshuva. That's our number one goal. It's the part of the spirituality program. We are there to service the residents. And as a result of that, of having the residents come in, and as a part of our extended community, we have family of residents who join us for services on Shabbat. We have alumni, people who have gone through the house who want to join us on Shabbat. And we do have a community at large, like myself, people who have not gone through the house and are not related to somebody who's gone through the house. Just general congregational members who just want to be allied with our services, who enjoy our services. And we cater, we minister to them as well. So we are a broad-based organization or congregation, but we do have to make, we do have to keep our focus on who it is that we're serving, because otherwise we get very lost in discussions about how to be reaching out and what type of services we provide. And we're not doing Hebrew school. We're not a Jewish day school. We're not focusing on these type of issues. But some of the things that we do talk about, I just want to mention very briefly some of the agenda that we discuss. We're an advisory body, really. We're not dictating anything. We're just processing ideas and what the function of the congregation should be and how well we're doing and whether or not we're meeting the needs of the community that we are. And so we're talking about things like what services should look like, how we are going to instigate a program of opening up so that the community can come back in for in-person services. We're talking about that constantly. We're always discussing how events are going to happen. All the high holy days, Passover, these kind of Purim, all the Jewish holidays that are coming up. How are we going to address them? What type of needs do we have? Do we need to talk to the film department? How are we going to promote these things? What kind of program are we going to offer to everybody? We're discussing this stuff so that we have a heads up and we have some advance notice, and we try to be helpful as where we can to making sure clergy has the support they need to pull off these programs, because it's always very challenging to do these things. We're talking about theme Shabbats, as I discussed. Grateful Dead Shabbat coming to you soon. We've been talking about including the residents more in Shabbat services, having them do drashes, having them lead the candle lighting ceremony, having them more engaged in being a part of the actual service, as again, our mission is to service the residents first and foremost. So we like it when they're involved. We like it when we celebrate birthdays for them. Most of us love to hear from the residents. I do, in terms of their experience, strength, and hope, especially in terms of how they're progressing through Beit Teshuvah. We are talking more and more about how we're going to do community outreach for the congregation. Again, something that's been curtailed because of the pandemic, but we are looking for ways to figure out how to work with the community, other community organizations. Rabbi's been talking about partnering with other congregations to do outreach programs. Finally, we were also talking about adult education, which we've had to curtail. I'm a strong believer that we should be doing survey courses at night for our congregation and the community at large about what it means, what Judaism is, what it means to be a Jew, what the Torah is all about, what the service is all about. These kind of broad survey issues are something that is always of interest to me. I took a survey course at Temple Israel. It attracts a lot of people. I think a lot of people want to know how Judaism fits in with the world. So, these are the kind, it's a lot. We're dealing with a lot of different issues. We're juggling a lot of things, but the energy is there. The mission is there. The passion is there. We have a strong group of dedicated people. We know that there's, sometimes there's controversy. We've had a lot of turnover. We are in growing pains, transition, very, very difficult. The hells are hell, we say in AA, meaning transitioning from one room to another can be very, very challenging and very difficult. I urge you, members of the congregation, to contact us or me in particular, just very simply. One of my emails is adam@adamnimoy.com. If you have comments, questions, concerns, jokes, please reach out to me. Let me know what your thinking is. We'll try to respond as much as we can. And we're going to try to keep these kind of community outreach meetings going so that we keep everybody up to speed of where we're at and where we're going. Thank you for letting me share.
Okay, so I don't know if I'm supposed to talk now or not, but you've heard from each of us as to where we see the Bet Shuva going, where we are now, and what we're transitioning to. when I became board chair, I said I saw my mission as mission over mishigas. And certainly we've all had a lot of mishigas to deal with. And and Adam was talking about, how we're not a traditional congregation. And when I first started coming to that teshuva, I thought, what I decided was that this is a place, a congregation for people who don't want to be part of a traditional congregation, and it's different. And I remember the very first time I went to a Saturday service, I had a child at Bet Teshuva, and it came time, they got out the Torah and they do an aliyah. And I had always experienced in other temples, aliyahs as, the temple president. It was always the big, important people who did aliyahs. And here I remember very distinctly the rabbis discussing the Torah parsha and bringing a lesson out of it. And maybe it was for anyone, here's a story in this week's Torah portion about someone being lonely or feeling like they're not good enough. And so this aliyah or this Torah portion, if you're feeling lonely or not good enough, this, this aliyah is for you. That was revolutionary to me. I said, how could I have been going to all these temples and all these years and never seen something so egalitarian and trying to use the Torah as a way of speaking to people, as opposed to using the service as a way of, thanking big donors or whatever it is. So I've just never forgotten that. Here's the newest member of the temple committee, Adam's cat has joined us. It's, so,
I put her on the floor, but I got a dog here that wants to get her, so I just have to stay up with her.
You're a place of safety, I guess. I don't know if we've had a couple chats that come in. For one person who entered something in the chat, thank you for following up on our MCLE suggestion, and we will do that. We've had a couple of questions about personnel matters, and as Sergio explained, there are issues that we just cannot discuss publicly. They're not government secrets or anything like that, but there are privacy matters, there are labor rules that we have to comply with. And, it's necessarily going to be, less than complete information. We can't be entirely transparent. We would all like to be, but sometimes you have to make decisions without being able to explain everything that went into that decision, because the rules just don't allow us to do it. And so I apologize for that. But, there have been quite a few transitions, and, but from each one, I think we emerge stronger, I hope. And I think we'll continue to do so. And we really, if you are joining us, you really should be grateful to the 3 people who are on this call. It's just been, some parts of this COVID have been devastating. And somehow we managed to keep afloat. Sergio kept the ship going forward, and Rabbi has, really, kept, I think, such positive spirit at services and the music department. It's really amazing. And Adam, and struggling with help with our committee to try to make sure that services are responsive and to what people want. And we welcome ideas. And so I think, as Adam mentioned, if you have a thought, let Adam know, and we'll talk about it in the committee. So are there any other questions, Nicole? Anything we can?
There's no more questions right now.
Okay, well, we're coming up to out of time, does anyone want to submit a question to Nicole that she can pass along? I think I'm very excited about, I think if you haven't seen the thrift store, it's great. I think that's going to be a big win for Bet Teshuva, especially for the real estate committee and Andy and Brad, and whose vision has seen that finally get to an opening. And boy, was that a struggle. Try to get a building permit during COVID when nobody's in the building department. But somehow they managed to do it. So really everyone here owes so many people a debt of gratitude for, I would say that's the biggest for me, everyone's dedication to the organization. It really is coming out of love and caring, and ultimately that's why Bet Teshuva works. And that will always be, I think, what you can say about Bet Teshuva. So, is that it? Should we say good night?
We should say goodnight if there's nothing further. Again, if you guys have any afterthoughts or any questions, please contact me. I don't know if my email is in the chat, but again, I can be reached very easy to remember, adam@adamnimoy.com, spelled Nimoy. And I look forward to hearing from all of you. And I'm so grateful that you guys showed up, frankly, to find out what's going on.
Yep. Agreed.
Oh, I love that story, hearing that story as well. And I think that's exactly what we do is we use Jewish tradition and the Torah to heal. And that's what's so profound and amazing and unique. So we're very blessed.
Yes, and so are we all. Okay, thank you, everybody. Stay
Thanks,
well.
all.
Some of you will be at services Friday night, I hope, and then if not this Friday, then soon.
Yes.
And keep it going. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Good night.